Okay, this is the third scenario. It's actually the next one that I'm going to highlight here in Dragon Pass. This one adds a pretty significant idea, the concept of magic and magic users. And because it is such a big idea, they take a scenario that doesn't include much but. We'll talk about the scenario itself a little later, but I want to talk about the magical rules. They're subtly different from what we've seen so far in the combat rules, but each type of combat's a little different, right? So physical combat, the attacker gets to attack first and inflict his casualties first. Missile combat, the defender gets to attack first, or fire first, and inflict his casualties first. Well, here in spirit combat, what you're going to see is the attacker gets to attack first, but doesn't get to inflict his casualties until after the defender gets his chance to fire back. So it's essentially a simultaneous kind of combat, although you have some information. So, this gets a little wacky here. We got a bunch of units on the board. Now, all of these are magic users. How can you tell that? Well, that's hard to tell you the truth. There's nothing that particularly indicate. Well, these guys aren't, and he isn't. These guys don't have anything that particularly indicates that they are magical using critters. The fact that these guys are from the Magical Union and these guys are from the Lunar College is largely in play. Oh, the wasps aren't either. Okay. But these barbarians are magic users. And conceivably we could have given them magical abilities in the first scenario where they existed. We didn't want to do that though. Actually, it may not have been these ones that existed. Okay. They may have been careful enough about that. So, the other thing that's added on the board is these displays here. Now, these are just holding boxes. It looks like, there's some kind of terrain here. That's not. Those are just some runes to show you some visual aspect in the background, just to show kind of who controls what. These are obviously the Lunars. These are Sartre. God knows what this is. It looks like it's probably chaos, but nah, it's not even chaos. Because it's like the Inhuman King. It's things that aren't... I was going to say Lightbringers, but these sure the hell ain't Lightbringers in general. I don't know if there's a good word for distinguishing between them. These are the more barbarian and Sartorite folk. And these are the more exotic mages, like the Dragon Newts. And then the Lunars are there themselves. So now, each mage, and each of these counters more or less represents a mage, has its name on the back, and that's important. So this is Flashjack. Well, his spirit says Flashjack on it. Now this is a bad example because, unfortunately, the names of the spirits aren't written here for these. But if we take a look at, say, this guy, Earth Twins, okay? What do we got here? Well, let's see. We got to find Earth Twins, and this is kind of a tricky thing because you kind of want to see this, where the name is. You kind of want to be able to see that. You kind of want to see what's associated with it, and you want to see the front of the counter, and you got to make some compromises. For me, showing the front of the counter and maybe the name underneath is the useful one. So this is going to be the spirit that's associated with that mage. Great. Well, in combat, or is it during movement? Shit. Okay. In movement, you're allowed to move your spirits. They pay 1 movement point per hex they move and none to leave hexes or cross hex sides. Okay. But how do they kind of show up? And that's kind of tricky here. So there's a range factor, and I don't really have a grasp on it. There's a range factor on these damn things. Oh, shit. Can't find anything in this rule book. This is really a terrible example of a rulebook. All right, let me try to figure out what the hell they're trying to say, because somewhere or another you're allowed to place these damn things on top of stacks, and I thought it was in combat, but now the spirits are allowed to move? What the fuck? And I was wondering about that, because some of them, like so this is weird. It has a movement factor, and it's actually not in this scenario, and I have no idea what it does. But they all have kind of a range factor on them. And then again, their mage may have a range factor too. Now, those may all associate and be equivalent. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at this. Harab Comb. It's going to be, oh no, Narab Comb. So that has a range factor of 5. So yeah, I think the range factor on the mage tells you where you can place the spirit. And you place it on an enemy stack during combat. There's two types of magic in the game. Physical magicians and spirit magic. I think we only have one physical magician in the game. And unfortunately, we have to flip around in the rules to find out what means a physical magician. That's an underlined range factor. And I think the only one we have here is Crater Maker's Agent, which is... The physical mages usually are dealing with more elemental type magic, and in this case it's meteors coming down. Alright. So after you place your spirits, you're going to be going into the combat segment itself, and the first thing that happens is you're going to see combat. And if you have a physical agent in the place, well, it gets to attack using its combat ability. Hey, what kind of number is that? Okay. That indicates that you use the phase of the moon for your strength. Within the glow line, which I believe is all of this. That would make sense because it's a hexagon, but I'm not sure why this is kind of pale pink. That may not matter too much. The strength will always be as though there's a full moon, 7. But anywhere outside of here, the phase of the red moon is going to be moving each turn. And it'll give you a different value for whatever that symbol indicates. So, you know, if you're at full moon, you get the value of 7. But if you're down here at sea go, crescent going, you'd only have a strength of 5 for that attack. And that gets to make, during the physical attack phase, a normal combat factor attack as far as I can tell. Just rolls a die, and here's the bonus. The attacker is allowed to select from anywhere in the stack for who takes the casualties. There may be some restrictions on that. Okay, then we go to the spirit magic phase, and this is more interactive. The attacker figures out how many spirit points he has sitting on top of that stack in terms of magic points. The magic points are going to be, of course, up here. And that directly is going to be an attack on that stack rolling against the magic factor. Before losses are calculated here, the defender then gets to add up his magical values of his defending units and roll an attack back on the spirits and maybe destroy those spirits in the combat. So spirits, you know, they're not able to just come in there and smash into you and destroy your units unless they're hitting a fairly weak stack. You can see the spirit magic on these is not terribly great, and it's going to be matched by the magician's own phase points. And if you actually look at the regular units, they have a fair amount of spirit defense as well, effectively. However, the range factors can neither be blank nor parenthesized. Okay. If a magician has his spirit doing magical support, what the fuck is that? Yes. Okay, so a magician who has his spirit out there on top of one of his stacks, all his magical power is being used by that spirit to defend that stack. So that magician doesn't have any magical defense at that point. So now the casualties that you take from spirit combat are going to be against the magic factor total. So you do casualties against the magic factor, not against the combat factor. And it works the same way where, you know, you have to... it works the same way as the physical magic does, where the person making the attack gets to choose where the casualties come from. And likewise, the defending player, the guy taking the magic, gets to choose where the casualties to the attacking spirits come from. So here's the thing. You're going to be able to use your spirits in one of two ways in a turn. You can either launch them on an attack on something within range, or you can use them to provide this magical support. And why can't you do both? At the end of the combat phase, okay. So yeah, so ones that you used in an attack are already off your chart at this point. Then you put, if you wanted to lend defensive support with spirits, you'd have to pull them out of your holding box and play them on the board at this point, and then your attacking spirits return, I guess. Another way to do it would be, well, you always have your spirits and you can throw them around for attack or defense. Let me make sure that's not what's intended, because if your spirits return, at the end of spirit magic, all the spirits return. Yeah, okay, so it looks like you get to use your spirits on both phases. You get to use them both as an attacking and a defending force. So you get to allocate them for attacks, and you then also get to allocate them to defend other stacks. But if you've got them allocating for defending stacks, that means you don't have your magical ability of your unit. Your magicians become actually weaker than your average unit at magical defense, if that's the case. Okay. So I guess that's what we have there. All right, is that all we have? We have a few more different little symbols here. So, for example, this indicates flying, and he'll be flying, you know, one movement point per hex, and can fly over water and the like. Here's another one, and to see if there's any other symbols. You'll see some of them have magical values that are based on the phase of the moon instead of physical values. We have some special characters here. The Red Emperor. Well, I think he's just a hero. Yeah, he's just a hero. Okay. But we have some exotics. We have the Crater Makers, where during the exotic magic phase, and that's going to be in the regular lineup, of any game turn other than Black or Dying Day, the Crater Makers can call down a meteor storm, and it can hit any hex within the Crater Maker's range. Every unit in the hex is eliminated. That's more powerful than calling up this physical spirit. And scary, scary, scary. But it won't infect disembodied spirits. And I think most of these spirits are disembodied, except for this one, which I'm not sure is. If you do that, though, and heroes, superheroes, dragons. Oh, I'm sorry, dragons and superheroes save themselves, and up to 3 units stacked with them. But I guess heroes get their roll. The Crater Maker's physical agent cannot make an attack in a turn in which the Meteor Storm is used. So you use it in lieu of doing a physical attack with it. But damn, you know, that's pretty potent. And when you're going to be doing your physical attacks, is probably when the black and dying are in there. And you're going to be pretty weak during those. Of course, no harm in doing it. Okay, we're not worrying about diplomacy for this one, I don't believe. Trying to see. Seem to remember there was some. Oh, the wasps. The wasps are special. I gotta find them. They have a cute little ability. All right. The rest of these we have already looked at. We haven't looked too much at Prince Argrath. So what he can do is he can negate the glow line and glow spot within 1 hex of him. Now, he has to reveal he's in the hex if he's hidden in order to do this. But then this would all return to the normal lunar timetable rather than within the full power. Okay, so for the wasps, the starter player can have them disrupt the inactive units within 1 hex of them. So basically they can disrupt all enemy units next to them, and that'll destroy the wasps. They aren't terribly valuable otherwise, just a 2-point attack strength, but they are individual critter type things. So that's kind of cool. I think that's it for this. Now this scenario, might as well read it while we get it, is named Counterstroke. And basically it's the idea is that Argrath's armies have just been... No, this isn't Counterstroke. Is it? Yeah. Argrath's armies have caused so much damage, and the 2 heroes, Herrick and the 2 superheroes, Herrick and Jer-Eel, are both out of the fight. Most of the army is wiped out. So, in order to try to quell unrest that's running throughout all of the Dragon Pass region, the Lunar Emperor is marching out himself with his mages to conduct a raid on Sartar and see how that works. We got the forces down. It's only going to be 7 turns. You can see where the exotic movement phase is, or magic phase is. That's when the Crater Makers can be used. And you can see the only thing that's the only thing that's changed in here. Otherwise, we've got the same sequence of play, but now we've got different things that take place in it. The lunar player selects the phase of the moon at the beginning of the game, and his goal is to hold Boldholm at the end of that 7 turns. Now he's going to start out within the glow line. And if he can't take Boldholm, the starter player wins. Now I remember something. I think somewhere over here there's like a glow point, but I'm not positive of that, and I'll have to look that up. There's also a glow point associated with the Crimson Bat, but we won't talk about that yet. I know what it is. So if the Sartorites can take this space, even temporarily, they destroy the glow line for the rest of the game. Alright. I gotta go to setup, but I need to relax a bit before. Okay, so I missed something here. These are elements of the full moon core here, which are have a very high physical combat and a 10-point magical. What does that asterisk mean? In the magical, the wasps have it too. I think it. It's their exotic ability. So they can be placed on the board in a hex with a lunar magician at any magic phase of a full moon day. once they're on the board, then they can't really, then they're just taken as normal units. However, they'll appear again if the lunar player wishes on the next full moon day. They can show up again. Now, whether or not that means you can always generate them in the glow line or whatever isn't clear to me, but I don't see any terrible reason not to put them on the board. They have a fairly high movement allowance, as high as almost any of the. This is not a magician. This is the Crimson Bat. Why is that there? Wow, we better look that one up. That's got a pretty big effect too. Oh boy. I thought it wasn't in the game. Let's see if we can find it. It's got to be somewhere here. There we go. Okay, any hex within 2 of it is a glow spot hex, which means we don't have to worry about the lunar timetable. If screening is being used, which we are, it doesn't exist unless the lunar player reveals it. There are some things that are going to have half lunar value, but that's okay. We just half the value on there, and we retain the fractions until they are dropped on the final roll or whatever. However, the bat has to eat a unit each black and dying day. It can devour any lunar unit within 1 hex of it during the lunar exotic magic phase. That unit's eliminated. If it's a hero or superhero like the Red Emperor, it cannot attempt a heroic escape. However, it can also sate its hunger by devouring an enemy unit during combat. If you devour a unit during combat, it has to be on the proper day to feed it, black or dying. If it doesn't feed on a black or dying day, it must devour additional lunar units on a later day. The number of units it must devour are listed on the bat hunger table. Is over here, so if you miss a day, now you're going to need to eat 2 units on the next one, I guess. Well, no. Jeez, I don't know. So you need 2 units on the crescent come if you miss a black day. If you want to fill it on the empty half, you got to eat 4 units, etc. If you end up missing both days, I guess you get this penalty, a much greater eating penalty, which should be capable if you fight it and if you do a battle. If you don't feed all the units needed to sate its hunger in a single day, those units that are devoured will count towards satisfying it, but it still has the growth. So if the bat didn't eat on a black day and then it devoured 1 unit on a crescent come day, it would still need to eat 3 more units instead of the 4 because it ate 1 here to fulfill that. Okay. In order to be sated. If the bat's not fed by the end of the lunar exotic magic phase of the following full half day, it's eliminated. If the bat is eliminated before its hunger is sated, one of the opposing players eliminates lunar units to satisfy the hunger of the bat's spirit. So you can't lose it to avoid that. The opposing players roll the die, and the player with the highest die roll removes lunar units of his choice if there are multiple opposing players. If there's enough lunar units to satisfy the bat's hunger, the full number of units needed to do so must be eliminated. Lunar heroes and superheroes that are eliminated can attempt heroic escapes. In this case, if the screening option is being used, the opposing player can eliminate lunar units that are not at the top of the stack, but he has to kind of declare, I want the 3rd one down or something like that. And then the bat's gone unless it gets to be replaced. There may be capacity to bring it back to life. Alright, well, setup is within the Tarsh and within Sartre. And I guess I'll try to start this. Okay, missed another factor here. Let's find the bat here. If you look at him, he has a -1 magic factor. What does that mean? Yeah, I thought we could avoid this. That means he's a chaotic creature. When he's in a battle, in the chaotic magic stuff, which is before the other magics, he's allowed to eliminate a unit. The attacker has all the power in the chaotic magic segment. Like I said, everything's a little different. He makes all the decisions. He makes the decisions which defending units are eliminated and which attacking units are eliminated. Boy, that's weird. Let's make sure that's not a typo. Nope. Okay. So, chaotic magic's allowed to eliminate anything that doesn't have an infinite magic factor, and some other things like herds, treasures, etc. can't be done. Agents of physical magicians, so you wouldn't be able to destroy this. Which makes sense, I guess. I'm not sure. The bat's pretty potent, if you know much about Glorantha. Although, the original for this game, Red Moon White Bear, I think maybe the other way around, was actually the first publication for Glorantha. So I'm assuming there was gaming going on in the role-playing side before this was released as a board game. But Glorantha may have been using a D&D-like system, kind of slowly being modified before RuneQuest came about. Who knows? In fact, I actually know that RuneQuest existed for some significant time before it was actually published, because I knew a guy who used to game with them. I knew a guy who used to game with them, who had rules that were never actually released in the original RuneQuest. I think some of them have been in some of the more recent stuff like about the dwarves and stuff. That was really awesome information, but it was all like photocopies of handwritten notes. Okay, so a chaotic unit with a 0 resistance factor can eliminate range factor, can eliminate disembodied spirits when it's attacking. So this guy has a 0 range factor, so he can only eliminate disembodied spirits when he's defending, stuff in his own hex. I think he can also eliminate I think he can only do it according to his range, maybe. No, it doesn't look like it requires the range for normal things. It's just the disembodied spirits has that restriction. He can't hit spirits that are defending a stack. Chaotic magic and magician spirits. Defending chaotic unit can eliminate magician spirits even if they are not adjacent. Of course, the spirits must be among the attacking units in the battle. That's if there's a multi-hex combat situation, which could happen. However, that negative has another effect over on the spirit magic phase. And I don't remember. Here we go. So you can't pick a 0 or negative magic factor as a casualty during spirit magic unless the defending unit's magic factor loss exceeds the total of the defending units whose magic factors are not negative. So basically you can wipe out all the things that have problems with magic, but only if you get rid of everything physical in its way that has a real, everything that has a real magic factor first. So it's going to be hard to wipe the bat out using spirit magic, unless you catch it alone, and then it's pretty easy. So there's some ideas. I'm trying to figure out the setup still, and yeah, I know I've used most of this video up on the rules for this segment of the rules. I don't know if I want to go back and try to do a real introduction for this. Maybe a high level one. I don't really want to go through the rules again, you know, piece by piece, I'm afraid. I decided on this setup, just a pile in each stack, because when it comes to spirit magic, there's no limit to the number of spirits you can throw at something, and the more defensive magic you have, the more you can wipe out those spirits. Most particularly, the Lunars were considering setting up in 2 spaces to try to, you know, leverage forcing a possibility. But the problem of being able to launch inward, the problem with that is, I'm going to make it a full moon actually. I'm going to make it this one on the first turn of the game. The problem with the with splitting up for the Lunars is the Crimson Bat is my glow spot. It's the thing that, you know, within 2 hexes or whatever, it gives me the glow now, which gives me full power. If I do have to split up, it may be towards the end of the game. Let's go here. It may be towards the end of the game, just before I'm getting to Boldholm. So I want, you know, turn 5 in this case, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make it turn 6. Okay, we'll make it a dying one. Turn 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll be the turn that I get the full moon in play during my split up. That means, you know, on turn 4, 5, 6, I'm getting some pretty good values for my magic. I'm hoping to defeat the Sartorites by that point. Now for Sartor, it was a little harder to decide, but they have the counter to the glow spot, which is the Prince, which of course, you know, if that negates the glow spot, well, that maybe the lunar plan wasn't so great, right? My thought there was, well, while it might be nice to combine and try to hit, at this point, I just want to get into the general area and fight him as far ahead as I can, because then I can use my zones of control and falling back, etc., that we saw was so effective by the Lunars in the last scenario up around here, where we actually didn't lose one of the fortresses by playing delaying actions. It's going to be tougher here because there's 7 turns, but there's a lot of territory I can play over now that I've started to realize how to delay. Problem with that, I know how to delay physical attacks. I'm not sure I understand how to delay magic users yet. And so, again, we're exploring the system here. In some ways, I wish I had done this kind of action with the Totaler Krieg and Die Sensei. So, but the thing is, each of these scenarios is different, you know, and there's no encompassing scenario that includes these little parts. So, with the Axis Empires, it was, oh, do you want to play some little part of, you know, the Grand Campaign, like the Pearl Harbor invasion, Barbarossa, whatever. And those are good to give yourself a learning experience, and I did do them. I didn't do them on camera, though, and it might have helped to catch the rules that way. Now, what I did do was did them on camera, learned the rules that way, and then went through the rules beyond that, but nah, I don't know if that's as effective as this kind of pulsed learning in situ, where you get to see the play right after the learning, if I ever shut up. So the Lunars open things up by moving forward. It's different movement point allowances. I've decided to move 5 hexes with everything that can move at least 5 hexes, and 3 hexes with the rest, even though there's units with 4 hex movement rates in there. But now, essentially, I've got to hunt these guys down. And not the crater makers. Put all their spirits on top of that stack to help defend it. Actually, if the spirit's not on the board, I get my defensive factor. So I'm going to just say all the spirits, and I'm not going to actually put them there here, are in this hex defending it. Now that makes this hex terribly weak, and that may be dangerous because I don't know what their ranges are here. I see 4s and 5s as kind of the biggest now. Depending on their movement, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I better leave them their magical defense factors. But now I have 2 weaker stacks, so it's conceivable Sartre can come up and hit me. I'm assuming I have a decent amount of strength, maybe mistaken, so I'm going to let him take that shot. We'll see. Again, learning game, right? Sartars do not have the strength to launch any reasonable ranged attacks to this back unit. And they could get a partial attack on this one, but I don't want to send some of my spirits in and get them hosed. So I'm just going to move forward and see what we can do. This is going to be kind of interesting, I think. And then these move forward. Now, it's important that I'm getting the black and dying out of the way, because that's when the crater makers can't do their special attack, even if they're within the glow. The Lunars gather their forces back together. I was too far away to hit with everything in physical combat, and if I can't get within a couple of hexes, I don't terribly want to be in spirit combat. I want that glow spot to be in range, because so many of my spirits are affected by it. So, you know, hitting with strength 3 spirits, is that terrible? Well, these guys are in the 4 and 5 range, so I really do have to worry about that. Spirit magic isn't affected by terrain. However, physical magic is, and we do have the 1 physical magic thing. I could launch this attack, give me a roll on the 3 table. It doesn't seem like a terribly bad idea. I think it goes away at the end of physical attack, but if it doesn't, then it could be affected by spirit magic. It has no marker. I better look at this and see if, because I don't want to make a roll on the 3 table and then have to take it back because it's just a stupid idea. It will seem somewhat ambiguous here. At least I'm unable to find anything of value on it, which isn't necessarily the same thing. The physical attacks, oh, they return immediately after the attack. Yeah, so there's no harm to throwing that off. So I'll be making a roll on the 3 table. I probably can't do anything with it. I do 1 point of damage. Now, I don't think there's anything here that takes just 1 physical point of damage. I'll look and see, but it's unlikely. I was mistaken. They have 1 wizard so weak that that's the case. It's the Earth Twins. I have to find here. You can see this is not the most easy system to look at. And that's going to get rid of his spirit, getting rid of a few points that I'd have to cope with in the spirit combat otherwise. I couldn't use the big destructive magic, which I can't remember. Every unit's eliminated. Any 1 hex within the range factor. Yeah, so Sartre is either going to have to attack now or hold things off. Now, we just hit a bat-eating day, didn't we? Uh-oh. I didn't think too much about the bat there. If he does not feed on a black or dying day, well, he hasn't fed on either, so I've got problems with the bat. Uh-oh. Which means he missed both days, so when Crescent comes, he's going to need to eat 3 units. Now, I could feed him stuff, but I would really rather not do that. I want to be able to hit with full strength. So I'm going to maintain that penalty. But it gets to be dangerous when we hit full. That's when the bat's most powerful, and if the Sartors can keep away from me until then, I'm going to be in serious trouble. Sartor has some serious problems. I can launch my attack against the full strength of the entire lunar power. I'm assuming that's not a great idea. Simply because, hey, the Lunars are on the attack here. They have to win the battle. So, the other thing then is I can run away from the bat. Not from the bat, but from the, well, from the bat, but also from the crater makers who have a range of 12. Now 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That goes out, you know, quite a great distance. I'm basically back to Boldholm, and I'm not going to be able to defend anything solidly there. On the other hand, I can spread my forces out, and then the crater makers can slam 1 unit at a time. As long as my distance is great enough, I'm fine, but the problem, of course, is the range factors on some of these things are fair sized. 6, 5, so I may be in a really unpleasant situation where I'm not quite sure how to defend against this. The Crater Maker ability is not a physical attack unless they call in the spirit itself. They can just call down the meteors and destroy basically an entire stack of my units. That's not good. I do the best to save my skin. I wish I hadn't advanced at all. 1, 2, 3, I'll fly these in. They're going to disrupt everything in the lunar stack at the cost of their own existence. I don't know what my long-term plan is. I'm still trying to figure out what to do, but at least that prevents, I think, most of these from falling. I also will be throwing some spirits to defend things. Probably this lead hex here. I'm not positive. By having moved forward and wasting my wasps there, you know, now I've got much weakened forces. You can see most of the range on these things is 0 right now. Hopefully it's that with the crater guys, but I'm not sure. I'll find out next turn because this was the best I think I can do. Let me see. It indicates on the back of this. No, it doesn't show it there. They're still able to move forward, and then they'll be able to recover, and then what? I don't know. This is, you know, one of those, it's not a geometric puzzle anymore like the physical warfare was. This is a mental puzzle that probably once you figure it out, one side or the other completely has it, but until you figure it out, the other side has it. Or maybe it's even once you kind of figure it out, although that seems unlikely. We'll see. Right now it looks to me like the Lunars are just huge. The Lunars feel they have an unstoppable force, so they're keeping it together. They could only move 3 hexes total. 1, 2, and then a free hex for using the movement rate along the secondary road. Now we gotta see if Sartor can do anything about him. 1, 4. Not in range with these guys. Damn it. I probably want it to be set up so I was closer, given that I was immune from attack this turn. Making mistakes left and right, I'm sure. It's just it's not too obvious to me how to stop that thing, or how to have a chance at doing so. This feels hopeless, but I've put all my magicians into range that they can throw their spirits into this hex. Those are all on top. I just don't want to have a huge stack. So we're going to see a spirit magic phase here. This is going to probably decide the game, because if those all get wiped out, well, there's nothing I can do. Even without them wiped out, I'm close enough to these. We're going to see stack, the biggest stack there is, probably destroyed. Others attacked. I just don't know what to do. The only thing I can hope for is to kill those crater makers. Because if I get a hit in, remember, I get to choose who to treat the damage to. I got to do some counting of the magic power hitting, so we're going to have that factor in play here. It's simultaneous damage, so it's not like I get to reduce the effect that these guys can do to me before they hit. But I've got to make this a physical contest. Maybe then, the closer I can make it into a physical contest, the better off I can reduce the possibility of losing. Like the more I can make it that kind of delaying game through these mountains, I hope. Total spirit combat here is 42, it turns out. Let's see what that means. That's not going to be on the chart, but I used the normal die roll modifier there. I do 42 hits to them. I'm going to have to write this down somewhere. But yeah, you know, no matter what, this combat system's so random that you can see that kind of effect. And now I count up what the defensive strength of all of this is. None of the spirits are on the board, but all the magicians, therefore, have all their defensive power themselves. I kind of screwed up here. I forgot to take the chaotic magic phase. He gets an automatic kill. And because he's negative here, it means I have to wipe everything else out. There's something like 94 strength points there. So I'm going to kill this thing, which has 6 magic points. And that'll reduce that to 36. Now, fuck. I'll get back to that and fix it off camera. But right now I've got like a 96. Let's see what my die roll is. It's crappy as hell. I'm going to have to find a calculator somewhere. Well, probably not. It's going to be 16 hits that I do. And let's write these down. 16 and 36. Now both sides get to pick. I'll do that picking as I try to clean up that mess. This game has a real issue with like way too many counters per hex, just because there's no stacking. And the magic kind of seems to encourage not stacking, or stacking humongously, not splitting your force. And with that die roll disparity, you better hope that means Sartre just sort of automatically wins, right? Obviously the game can't just be a puzzle because of the huge amount of luck involved. Here's what got destroyed, including those crater folks. I have to hunt down their spirits and get rid of them. And then here are the 16 points of spirits that were destroyed on the Sartorite side. But yeah, I mean, this stack's a lot smaller now, and I'm a lot more willing to attack it. I've also taken kind of an advantage. Even if you have defensive spirits up, they don't really help you. So like, if I had all the spirits for the Lunar Empire in play, in that stack, I would have had the same combat ability, because the fighting ability is based just on the magic, which is the same between the magicians and the spirits. The magicians don't get their magic if they're on the board, if their spirits on the board, and it's up to the person inflicting the casualties to decide where to do the casualties. They're not going to do them to the spirit, they're going to do them to the magician, thereby destroying the piece and the control over the spirit. So you end up with the same essential effect. I just wanted to make sure that was clear, that, you know, there wasn't some kind of magical barrier that I could put here where all of these would have to be eliminated first. So that's one of the advantages the Sartorites got on the attack here, was they got to attack the actual physical pieces, thus reducing both the spiritual capability of the army as well as the physical capability. And so now their own physical attack values, which are actually higher to begin with, have become more important. Plus there's a hungry bat out there, which is a serious issue. So the Lunars are going to be forced to try to kill some actual units in battle next to the bat, so that it has something to eat, because it's going to be ugly. I lose my whole army basically if it gets here. You know, I mean, the numbers that I have to eat. Let's see, I missed both days. If we have full half, that's 24. I don't have that many pieces. Yeah, that's number of units. Ouch. In terms of total spirit power, we're looking at 1220 left here. 2838. Red still got the Lunars still have the advantage there. And these are all worth 7 as long as they stay within a hex or 2, I think it is, of the bat. Which we want to do. So here we are on the lunar turn, and we're in the crescent comb, I guess. I think I did that right. And that's that means we're hungry for 3 units. Now, I can't afford to sacrifice units, so I'm going to have to engage in physical combat here. Which is good. That's actually what I want to do at this point. It's going to be my way to bust my way through. I wonder why he's alone here. Huh. To keep from getting killed, I guess. He's going to have to make it down here, so it's going to be a tricky situation. I think... See, this game goes 7 turns. We've made it through 3 with the rules. I think I'm going to load this up at this point and start the turn actually on a second video. Spread out means more available for weakness. Hey, I ate a spirit. I wonder if spirits count towards my bat. I'll have to look that up in a minute. But the Crimsons, the Lunars came marching down. Now they're attacking out of a river. That's going to have their attack strength, actually, I believe. Yeah. Which would kind of suck, but they have some pretty potent units here. Of course, they're facing a fair-sized stack there in the mountains, which means its damage is reduced. I've spread some spirits out here to whack these units. Basically, I've got to brush my way through real quick. If this were a purely physical fight, I'd have a hard time making my way through. But with some of the advantages that I have here, being able to blast the second line here and such not, it's going to be tougher, I think, for the Sarkarites to get out of the way. But we'll see, because remember, this combat is simultaneous. So my spirits are going to get brushed out of the way by, at least some of them are going to potentially be killed by the Sarkar defense. Alright, let me take a quick look at the bat. It devours units. It would make sense that those units, in Glorantha's terms, would include spirits. So I'm going to throw this spirit over here, so I only need to kill 2 more to feed him fully. I'm not sure that's the intention, but the destruction of spirits usually releases some energy which can be tapped in RuneQuest, so it kind of fits the thing, and I'm not going to worry too much about trying to find if there's some hint in the rules that would indicate that beyond what I already know. Okay, so now we go to the chaos battle, the chaos part of the battle phase, and here I get to kill something else, and I get to eat one of these right off the bat, which is kind of cool to begin with. Not so much off the bat as it's going into the bat. There was something which, I don't remember what it was, allowed you to pick units to die kind of at random from inside the stack. I don't remember exactly what the issue was, but in this case, because I'm in contact, I'm fighting a battle, I do know what's in that stack, and I can examine it. Alright, well, I ate one of these barbarians, and we should see which one. I don't get to eat his thing, I'm assuming. His tribal spirit. It's just destroyed along with him. And now for the magic combat, well, let's take a look at what we have here. We're within 2 of the glow spot, but this is destroying the glow spot. Crap! This is like playing an SFB game in terms of the richness of the interactions of the different weapon systems, etc. It really is going to take some getting used to. I'm just going to let things stand as they are, but I believe he destroys it within 1 hex. Yeah, within 1 hex. So that's gone. So these guys are only strength 4. So that's a 14 magic going up against another 14. This is spirit magic, not physical, so I don't have to cope with the physical magic. And so I just get to roll my normal combat here at only a 14. And I get a lousy 2, which isn't going to hurt any of these. And now they get to come back at the same time, also at 14. And they also get a 2, which isn't going to do anything. We'll return these later. Let's look at this one again. I shouldn't have attacked next to the prince. That kind of makes up for the prince not being stacked closer to the line because he is the defense there. So this is just 12 and I'm facing 9. Alright, let's see what the 12 does. That'll do 6. And the 9 is going to do 4. Alright, 4 is one of these. I get to pick which one. It doesn't really matter. They're all the same. And 6 to these, I can go after the bigger unit, and neither one's going to be better. There's no defensive multiplier in here because I say so. Because it's spirit combat. We already touched on that. And now we go to the physical combat. You know, this looks like a pretty key battle. Let's take a look at it. There's no missile users in this scenario. We'll see this later. But I'm only allowed to use the first 3 major units here. So these guys have strength. Now these guys are in the glow area, so their strength is 7, as if it's a full moon. So they're 14, 15, 16 because I have a leader, 20, 21, 22. This is his magic strength, not his... Okay, but under that, I have 26, 27 for the leader. Okay, so I'm at 27. Now the reason the bat's so low there is if I lose the bat, not only do I lose some of my advantages, but he eats some of my pieces, and I don't want that to happen. Okay, so we're on the 27 table, and we get to swing first here. No, we're not. We're on the 13 table, and we get to swing first here. And losses are going to be, this is, I believe, mountains. Wonder where hills are. You know what? I bet you most of this is hills and these are mountains. Yeah, I was counting these as double in the other scenarios. So these are only 1.5 because they're just hills here. Okay, so on the 13 table. So that's going to be 6 hits. And I have to lose this one because it's on top. Remember, physical combat's all on top. So that's 5. Well, his spirit seems to already be gone. All those tribal spirits are gone. And the extra damage, well, that's just a 2-point unit, but it would take 3 points to hit. I only have 1 left. Now he gets his swing back, and he's on the lousy 2 table, which isn't going to do anything. It does a hit, but this thing has a physical strength of 7 right now because of the full moon. So that looks like it takes care of the lunar phase. If I had any rallying, I would be taking care of it now. I get to recover my units back to the board, but you know what? Yeah, I only took this as a loss on the physical stuff. Okay. I'm just trying to make sure that I've gotten everything taken care of. So these spirits are going to go back, and no point in defending here because I'm already there. The magician's defense value is just as good as the spirits. No reason to make the stack as big. Sartre, of course, the question is, do I hit them with ground combat, which I actually think I'm pretty damn good at compared to them. We saw what they hit with. Well, no, they hit with like 13, but in defense, they're going to be higher. They're going to be at that 27. And I'm probably only going to be able to strike with around 22 at most, unless I do it from multiple hexes. Plus I get first strike that way. I don't think I want to take it to Spirit Magic. My Spirit Magic is insufficient. The reason I wouldn't want to attack, other than that might divert some of my troops around the river, is that this still doesn't fulfill what the bat needs. So then if I pull back, I'll just keep pushing it, and eventually it may come to the point where the bat eats all the lunar forces. There aren't that many pieces left, right? And as far as I can tell, I can't just sacrifice my spirits to it, although that would actually be a sensible interpretation given what we're talking about in terms of the units otherwise. If I summon spirits in the hex, the bat could eat them, right? So that might not be an unreasonable way to look at it. I think I'll probably take that up. And I feel like I've got a good shot at stopping this all right now with the Sartorites. I'm going to launch an attack. This is going to be a purely physical, except for one problem. The red bat. He gets to eat something. Now, he can choose to eat whatever he likes. And I think he likes the idea of... This is using chaos magic. I think he likes the idea of eating the king himself. The glow spot is negated by the king, which is a problem here. Let me make sure I can do that. I don't see why not, so I'm using my chaos magic on him. I don't see any reason why he can't, unless... He's not even a hero, if I recall correctly. Yeah, he counts as a hero. Okay. But he gets his... Oh, they can't be picked as casualties for Caddic Mount. No, that's superheroes. He's not a superhero. Okay, so all that's going to happen is he has a 4, 5, or 6 chance to survive this. And if he survives, he goes in a stack with his own units, which could be the one he's in. He does survive, so this was the risk to using the bat to kill the hero, is I could have killed a real unit automatically. That's okay. All right, now we have the attack, actually, and we're looking at 9, 13, 14, 15, 16 for the leadership, 20, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 37, 42 is my attack factor. Nothing's penalized, nothing's helped. I want to think about how I want to reorder the defender stack. I'm good with how it is. These aren't as big as they were for the attack, but they're still the biggest thing. So 42 is my initial attack, and I do 42 hits. There's no defensive benefit here, so 4, 8. Ouch. There goes the Red Emperor. 12, 13, 17. There goes the bat. I've not eaten enough, so he's got to eat another unit. 17, 18, 19, 20, and there goes the game. Bang! Crap. Oh, it should have all been one video, I guess. Oh well. Without any units, the Lunars are not going to be able to get the bolt home. And we learned some more things. You know, this is so strange because normally, I really feel like I have to be able to understand the game and move the things and use them correctly. But in this one, it feels so chaotic. And, these big die roll randomizers and stuff. I don't much mind what happened and all that confusion and all that, that feeling of, oh God, how do I stop him? How do I get through? Those big questions, that puzzle, it becomes not a pure puzzle because of the high randomness value of the game. You can't just say, yeah, this is going to work out well, even if you know everything, I think. Now, if you had those crater lobbers, you could say that stack's dead and there's no chance. But the point is, if you know a little bit and can try to defend yourself a little bit against things, I feel like you always have some sort of a chance. It would require a level of incompetence that even I proved not quite capable of managing to make this completely one-sided. And that's a nice thing. And I was saying this SFB comparison. I remember, scanning through looking for that particular special use little thing for my shuttle. Not just the suicide shuttle, but you could pack them full of drones for the scatter pack. You could send them out and use them as a form of chaff to confuse drones. You had with the Wild Weasel, you had so many different weird little options to make in terms of your loading of the weapons, etc., where you were always looking for this little edge. And that's what this feels like right now. Now, I'm sure there's not quite as much wealth, in terms of the interactions of all the different special critters in this to all the different special ships and weapons and abilities in SFB. Or, ASL never felt quite that way, but maybe I just didn't get into it as much. And maybe there just aren't that many special abilities there. I don't know. But I'm feeling that sort of excitement and interest. I would go fight fleet battles and think of something while I was taking one person's turn, and the other guy doesn't think of it, even if it's me. So much of the excitement in the game was that kind of, all right, I have this figured out. No, I don't quite. Okay, how do I make up for that, etc. And that really shines through in these little puzzle scenarios. We're going to see how much the bigger scenarios feel like once we add things like diplomacy and then, just units all over the place and everything. We'll see.